The long-awaited Backrooms movie has finally hit theaters with some insanely mind-blowing opening weekend numbers. It's sort of a cultural zeitgeist moment that's capturing the internet's attention. The Backrooms, their videos, story, and lore have appealed specifically to my generation. The night I saw Backrooms in theaters, it was mobbed with young moviegoers. In my theater, every single seat was sold out. But does this phenomenon lead to a phenomenal movie? Well, let's talk about it. Hello, and welcome to the Next Gen. Today, I'll be reviewing Backrooms. This review was written and edited by Sean Mardrum. For those unaware, Backrooms, or The Backrooms, is a web series turned feature-length film by director Kane Parsons. The original YouTube short that pushed this horror craze forward was released in 2022, and 4 years later, the mystery and intrigue of what we call liminal horror is just as strong. As many know, Parsons is only 20, and it's exciting to see him join the list of YouTubers turned theatrically released film directors. But what are the Backrooms? Well, they are sort of like this endless maze of warped hallways and furniture that people happen to stumble into. It's hard to describe, but that's where its horror appeal lies. The film follows a series of characters as they discover this mysterious plane of existence and explore its dangerous nature. The film's leads, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Clark and Renata Rensve as Mary, are the best part of the movie, outside of just seeing this horror on the big screen. The script is good, nothing groundbreaking, and the character work is fine, but their two performances are so strong and impressive that it feels shocking for a horror film. It's not that horror films don't have great performances, or that these actors would phone it in, but it's just a nice change of pace. To stay low on budget, horror movies often rely on unknowns with okay acting skills to carry their complex characters. Both Ejiofor and Rensve are some of the best actors working in the business, and it's nice to see them use their craft to give their characters some really strong scenes. The obvious star of the movie, however, is the production design. These sets are masterfully constructed, with reports of over 30,000 feet of sets built. Even areas that the characters don't walk through look fully realized, and they capture the exact tone and architecture of the web series. One of its first appearances in the film has someone walking around with no imminent danger, but it feels so uncanny and unsettling. It makes the viewer feel unsafe and lost as you try and look around every corner and hallway to make sure nothing is there. I did think to myself that maybe the characters were exploring a little too much, especially once they realized that there is something else going on in the Backrooms, but sometimes moments of unbelievability from characters in horror movies are something you have to let slide. And whether it's signs, cardboard cutouts, or Christmas lights, any new discovery that isn't just empty yellow rooms is just as scary as any movie monster stalking your victims. To think that furniture in a movie can make you feel so uneasy is just wicked impressive. From my little prior knowledge of the Backrooms, I thought that the movie would be a slow burn, with maybe 10 minutes at the end of the film where things are fully out of hand. This is certainly not the case, and the movie is so much better for it. Without spoiling anything, halfway through the movie the dial is turned to 11. I didn't think it would even go close to that level of horror and insanity in its third act. Maybe that was my expectations of the movie being low, or my small knowledge of the original source material. I was so happy that this film leaned into some truly unsettling horror, outside of just characters walking through rooms. I've seen some people say that they wished the opposite, that the film was instead just a horror movie about being lost with no escape, which I can totally understand as well. I just went in thinking I would get a long, slow burn, and instead I got some really great slow burn with some insane sequences. I prefer this approach, that slow, methodical horror is present in the web series, then the higher budget shocks and scares are seen in this film. Sequences that used found footage or camcorders were the most effective at doing this. A handheld camera immediately puts the audience into the movements of the characters, and the switch in quality and audio also leads to a further sense of dread. I think the first scene that used this style was a touch gimmicky, but later sequences used this directing style to great lengths. I will say one of the major sequences in the film, its final 10 minutes, did leave me a little disappointed. I think the movie showed its hand a little too much, both by trying to explain its concepts and not following the horror rule of less is more. Again, this is a little spoilery, so I'll stay vague, but I think there's one terrifying aspect of the film that was more effective when it wasn't the full focus of scenes. The ending also lets the air out of the bag in an unfortunate way. You often want horror movies to end with a bang and that sense of adrenaline, or lingering fear that makes you feel uneasy. While Backrooms does have that ending bang, it also putters out into a little bit of a whimper with its ultimate conclusion. For anyone looking for a real dreadful horror movie in the best way, I don't think you can go wrong with Kane Parsons' very strong debut. You don't need any prior knowledge of the source material to have a good time and get creeped out along the way. That's why I think Backrooms is worth seeing.